Craft, and good morning. We're gonna keep our trajectory and try to finish up this piece right here, right now. So I'm gonna grab the green. Sorry, I had to refill my water. Gonna get some of this green mixed up. Add a little blue. Adding some more water just to stretch this out a little bit. And actually, we'll just start with this thing right here. I'm going to start a little bit of a coat on the elevator platform. I left this so you could pull it out just for this reason, because I knew that trying to paint something in there was going to be impossible. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Blur's Craft. I'm just going to finish up this build I started painting yesterday. I meant to do another live stream last night, but by the time I remembered, it was already late and I was kind of losing my brain a little bit. So as you can tell, I'm more of an early bird. I get up earlier. Right. Pretty easy. I'm gonna grab some of this white, and I'm just gonna give me a little bit of a blending. Now I don't have to mess with that anymore. It's perfectly golden. And so the next bit is going to be like all the tiling pieces. So might actually shift down to a little bit smaller of a brush. Imran Pasha. Binini. I don't know what that means, but good morning. Hello. Welcome. So I'm just going to switch to a little bit smaller of a brush so that I got a little bit more control on these smaller pieces. And as long as I get even just a thin base coat of this green, it'll give me enough of a color that I shouldn't really have to go back and do anything with it if I don't want to. So that is always a technique you can use of using a high pigmented paint and watering it down, doing a real thin coat just to get you a little bit of that flavor of that pigment. So you guys can't really see what I'm doing, but I'll try to change the angle for you. I had to switch to the smaller brush so that I could do these cubes a little bit easier. So or they're not really cubes, they're just squares. But I got a lot of them. A lot of squares to do with green right now. And again, I do understand that this is bright colors for Saint Necromunda, but it is a very cyberpunk type of setting, and I am going to tone it down with some dark washes. So it's okay that stuff is bright right now. So we're just going through here, filling in all the flooring that we left blank, and we're doing it the same teal color that we did the flooring on the last two, so they will all match. They'll all have the same kind of flooring. Other things might not be the same on them. The buildings might be different colors, but I'm going to try to keep the consistency with what I use. What I use to color the industrial bits, and what I use to color the concrete bits, and what I use to color the flooring. Those three are going to stay the same throughout this whole build. The other things can kind of randomize. And I also don't mind not putting pigment on it and just letting the wash give it some color. There is definitely going to be some pieces that I leave like that. So and even though that I've changed colors, I am going to try to keep in the consistency of this is where the light is coming from. So when I shade these, I'll shade everything highlighted from that side and shadowed from this side. And it's funny, the more work you do on it, the more you see little spots where you miss something, or that you do it again a different way. So again, I'm just trying to get this base coat of green. It's more like a teal, but just trying to get this on there so I can go back and hit it with a little shading. And I'll basically have the three primary parts of this shaded or base coated and shaded. And I can hit some stuff up with some of the yellows, maybe some of the red. Trying to get this little detail of this ladder painted in with the green without ruining the red behind it. And again, the shading or the wash that I put on it will save some of that, but will fix some of the mess up, but still pays to try to be precise. The only tiling left in there is down there on the bottom. Okay, well that seems good. So now I'm gonna move into the shading part, which is I'm just gonna take a little bit of white. Since our light is coming from this edge, I'm gonna go ahead and start. And oh, see, that was a little bit too bright. If I get it too bright, I know it's hard for you guys to see. I'll try to show you right here. Oh. If I get it too bright, like if I put a blab and put white and that's too bright, I'll go back with my mid-tone. And I can, blend that in. So I'm just gonna real quick kind of blend some mid-tones in here too. That will just add a little bit more shading to these interesting little squares. And help cover up anything that I messed up on them. So over here is a good example because this is going to actually get light down here on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and try to add some shading in there. That'll just make it easier later. Like basically takes the shading away from me having to do shading on each individual pieces here because I'm doing it right now. Bam. Okay, well that was sleazy easy. I like that. Feel like I could touch up that blue a little bit. I've seen a few spots where I missed on the blue. We're just gonna do a little bit more blue. And it might get toned down by this green in here a little bit, but the blue is a very strong pigment, so it'll kind of overwhelm other colors. I'm just going to stipple on a little bit more of this dark blue. On this edge that I kind of did, I washed it down a little bit too much, I think. Maybe some on here too. Okay. Grab a little bit of this. Oh, you can see. Just doing the same thing I did with the last one with a little bit of the white, where light would hit Okay, a little blue touch up. That went over well. Maybe some orange. Man, I gotta wash a palette. It's looking like. Try to get some orange out of this. Not get these brushes clean no matter what I do. It's like water mixable, but it's not water cleanable. So we got this alive still, nothing. Try to get us like a dirty orange right here. Pretty good. That's a little bit too red, but if I lighten it up, it should shade up into orange a little bit. So use it, leave it, and I'm going to use it for some of these little industrial blobs. Right, just a little orange there, and just to test it, I am going to snag some of this white. Does shade up a little bit more red than I'd like it, but it is what it is. I can dig it. So I'm gonna go through real quick, and I'm gonna paint up some of these bits, maybe even some of this wiring too. Although maybe I'll do the wiring straight yellow, because that's the hardest color to paint. And wires are a pain in the butt to paint, so might as well make it harder, right? Let's get in here and do these little details real quick. And so the further along I get on a piece, the more it slows down, because I have to be a lot more careful, trying not to get the other paints, so it does pay to like cut the corners and make up the time earlier in the painting process, because later you have a little bit less leeway, I feel like. So So I'm trying to put together a idea for an event for next year's Under the Dice Fest. One that I could run. And I'm thinking like a Necromunda one-off sort of Necromunda mini campaign. We'll even do this little orange thing. I'm gonna go ahead and do these big tubes, that orange. We got another one right here. Super pain to paint because now I have to try to paint from inside here. Who built this thing? I did. I built it. It's my fault. All of this is my fault. The other thing I was thinking about too is that I could probably just go back with white on some of these, so that just to where I've accidentally hit it with any other paint, and then go back with the black wash. When I do the black wash, it'll shade that up really nice, so I could always do that too, which I might do on a few of these little wires, just to have like gray black wires running everywhere. And as opposed to trying to paint every one of those things, because that's the other thing too, is you kind of have to choose your battles. If the detail is getting monotonous, if things are getting monotonous, then you gotta pick the things that don't bother you too much to do, that add, an aesthetic to it. And you gotta focus on those, get them done, and then you can move on. That's also why I paint in this kind of style where I can always go back and mess with it. In fact, most of the time they sit zenithal for a while, because then I can play on them, but I don't have to solidify what colors they're going to be. Because this did get even more Dr. Seuss once I started painting it with these bright colors. Even though I'm trying to tone them down relatively. I'm relatively trying to tone them down. They're still pretty bright colors. And the other cool thing about this technique is you can really water these paints down and you'll get this kind of like not too happy looking, washed out sort of looking wall. Looks like it's worn out, it looks like it's been sun bleached, or some liquid has dripped on it and changed its colors. And that's just all from the way the pigment will flow. And I do have a technique for achieving that with acrylics, relatively easy. But it's basically doing this same technique, so. And I had these free, I was gifted these water soluble oil paints. So I thought I'd give them a try. Okay, good. Missing any other things I want to make orange? So and like I said, in this back shadowed area, as long as you get kind of like a little bit of a tone there, um, after the shading, after the oil wash goes on, it will, hopefully it'll darken enough that you can't really tell um, how well it was shaded in. Plus it's like, it's gonna be back there. There's that whole thing too with like, when you're playing a game, you don't see everything all close up like when you're painting it, so. It's a little mid-tone. Start. Putting some shading on these, all coming from this direction. And doing this too, putting like another color over this kind of stippled on, that will help too if you miss any spots. Kind of doing this stipple on shading with it, because after you do the wash, there'll be so much like thickness going on that hopefully it'll blend in together really well. So. Really, I'm thinking like, all I'm really missing is like brown. This massive wires is kind of bothering me. So I'm gonna see if I can't do just a little something. And this will also start me on my brown palette, which I will then use to coat all the rest of the floor. I don't want this particular batch of paint to be super runny, because I'm going to be doing those thin pipes with a bright color, and I don't want it to be dripping off right onto something else. So I kind of wanted a little bit thicker consistency. So I just have to be careful with how much water I put in it. So we're just gonna get a little color on these wires. I can already tell that this is going to be a long and arduous task, and I'm going to get yellow paint all over everything. I don't want it. Might be fun for you guys to watch me mess up with this. Might not. So just trying to continue with these wires. So yes, probably not the most to watch because you can barely see what I'm doing way back in here, but yeah, I'm just painting these wires yellow. Painting the wires yellow. Y'all probably up getting ready for work. Good morning to everybody. And I'm not going to be crazy with it, or I'm going to try not to be crazy with it. I'm just going to get some base coating on all of this. Give it a different, help it pop out of a little bit away from these cooler colors. Wow. So there's a mess of wires all underneath here that should be painted yellow, but I'm not going to go too crazy with it because you really can't see. I'm just going to kind of paint it really where you can see it, because I did a lot more wires and tubing back in here than I probably needed to. And like I said, I could probably go back through and do these with white instead. It's going to be basically the same issue. I'm going to be using a very light paint on top of darker paints, and I'm going to be trying not to, get that light paint onto the darker paints. And then I'm going to be washing it with black wash. So instead of, a gray wire, I'm going to have kind of like a mustard yellow wire. Oh. Dun, dun, dun. Oh. Oh. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get rid of where the wire has been covered with the other color of the paint. And I suppose if I had done it in white, I'd just have to go through and hit those spots as opposed to the whole thing. But I like the wires that color. It's kind of cartoonish, but like I said, I'll wash it down with the black wash, and it will darken the whole thing. I'm definitely digging it. I don't have to try to shade any of these wires. It's not necessary. You could if you wanted, and on like the bigger pipes and stuff, definitely shade those. But on these little pipes, I don't think so. I think it's more important to just get a consistent layer across than it is making sure everything's shaded perfectly. Right on. Well, I think the only thing, really the next step besides letting it dry is the brown, getting the brown on here. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. It's telling me I got 0 watchers right now. I'm at 44 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm going to take a quick break and come back and brown wash this, and then talk about which next one I'm going to work on. So I will be back momentarily. All right, I'm back. Let's go ahead and put some brown wash on this, since that's basically what we got to do. Brown wash technique. A little bit of red in here. A little bit of blue in here. Ending up very purple there, but that's all right. So then I'm just gonna start putting this brown all over it, wherever there was texture, and even a little bit more. Like this can actually be a little bit more watered down. And then we really don't mind if we get it splattered all over the place. I've got a lot of space to fill with this, so see a few, random little things that I missed on this first overpaint job. And while it's drying, when I start working on the next one, like I'll go back and I'll maybe like put some color on this piece. Forgot to put some orange on that. Maybe some on here. That type of thing. So. But for right now, this is like the last piece of, last chunk of color that needs to be done for it. So we're gonna get it all, get all this brown on there, and then we're gonna go set it over by the dehumidifier and start it drying, because stuff takes a long time to dry. Really want to get that brown all mashed all over the place, wherever I see some of that texture. That it splatters and splashes a little bit. I don't mind about that either. It's just gonna add to kind of that verdigris or broken down, dirtied up. Basically the first step to toning down the brightness. And this will probably be just our first go at washes. I made this a lot runnier than I did the last one, so it's kind of seeping into the board a little bit more underneath the texture. When it dries, I feel like it'll just tone it a little bit. I'll just have to do more washes. I might have to go back, and I probably will go back and do some dry brushing on the texture parts, just to help them differentiate from the other colors a little bit. kind of blending that brown into different spots too. So that looks pretty good, but I do have a little bit of brown left in there. So I think I'll put this on the dehumidifier pot real quick. Because it's so runny, I think I am going to. This is the first one I did. First one painted. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a little bit of this wash, just use it up. You know, I don't want to waste any of this. Just because I got it free, that doesn't mean that I want to waste it. But this will be a good just addition to grunging this up. The fact that it doesn't match the original tone perfectly. And the fact that it's a little more watered down, it can be a little bit more sporadic with it. And because this piece is much further along in the drying process, I don't have to worry about smearing it so much, which is why I didn't like try to do much vertical shading on that last piece, because some of that, like, I accidentally touched some of that wire and it was still had that yellow all over it, started to smear. Not that that's a bad thing, I just blended it in and whatever, you know, it looks fine, but it's just a thing to watch out for. Good. I feel good about that. I used up all my paint. Which always makes me feel good. So. What up, War Tiger? Always good to see you. Yes, I just finished my third piece. I set it over there to dry. Took some of the extra brown wash that I had left over and started putting it on this, because this piece is dry enough that I can start washing it. But War Tiger is right. I am about at the end of this stream. We'll try to do another one at about noon, and again try to do another one at 7. That's New York time, relatively. So yeah, if you guys want to catch me then, that'd be awesome. I might hop in and do another one prior to that. Honestly, I don't know. It's matters on my day. I got a lot of other things I got to get done today, so it might not land right at noon. Like yesterday, I had other things right at noon. So, but I'm gonna let these guys sit and dry for a little bit, and then I think I'll start on the next one. If the sun comes out, I'll do some priming and I'll get that Yes, that's also from the highlighting technique, using kind of blending it in while it was still, both the colors were still wet. I feel like that definitely helps make it pop. But yeah, I mean, if I were to go through and every little detail on this thing, it would be almost so overwhelming. There's like all these different little wires and stuff. You kind of just got to choose the ones you like and make them pop. But yeah, I'm gonna hop off for a bit, but I will try to do at least one more live stream today. I don't, again, I don't really have a schedule for doing these, and I haven't really gotten so much feedback as far as what is the best time to do it. So I've just been kind of punching in different times to see which works the best. Um, so yeah, I'll catch you guys again around noontime. Thanks for checking out my channel, and I'll catch you later.